Hi, I'm Aryn Morell, winemaker at Tenor Wines, and today we're going to be trying the 2008 One of One. It looks like chapter 1, verse 1, but we pronounce it One of One. And this is the second vintage of the One of One. It's our proprietary blend that we produce every year. It's actually the only Tenor wine we guarantee to produce every year. We do the single varieties. In a given year, if they're absolutely exceptional, we'll produce them. In 2007, we had Merlot Malbec, 2008, Merlot, Cabernet, and Syrah, in addition to the One of One in both of those years. So, for us to produce this wine every year, we take in all the other varieties and then basically choose what we think is absolutely exceptional, the most complete Cab, the most complete Cab Franc, Merlot, etc., and then put that together in a wine that we feel is going to be the most complete aromatically, palate-wise, refinement, elegance that we could possibly produce. And if we didn't think that the One of One was better than any of our single varieties, then we did something wrong. If you have the ability to blend varieties to make a proprietary blend or a Bordeaux blend, and it's not better than your other products, then in my opinion, you did something or we did something wrong. To have the chance to have the varieties out in front of you and sort of piece a wine together, should give you every opportunity to make the most compelling, the most complete, the most complex wine that you could possibly produce in a given vintage. And this is our expression of that. So there is more Cabernet in the 2008 than in the 2007. There's Cabernet Franc in the 2008. There was none in the 2007. And that gives this wine a slightly darker tone to it. And I want to say it gives it a slightly richer tone from front to back. There's a little more Cabernet texture. The Cabernet Franc adds kind of a lift to that. Cabernet typically has that kind of plum jam, currant, and the Cabernet sources that we have typically are fairly centrally focused, but they're slightly riper styled. We don't get a lot of herbal tone in them. Cabernet Franc gives us more of the black currant, even hints of red currant, but there is kind of that graphite mocha spice. It gives us that lift in the middle of the aromatics, and I think it makes the 2008 an exceptional example of a proprietary blend for us that's similar in style and tone to the 2007, but just slightly different. So if you love the 2007 wine, I think you'll absolutely love the 2008. And essentially we try and put the wines together so that they will show similarly year in and year out, but the vintage will change the tone of the wine, whether it's riper, whether it's more dormant, whether it's more feminine aromatic. But when it hits your palate, it essentially should do everything, side to side, front to back, etc. So the other thing we like to talk about with the Tenor wines is the glassware. Certainly all of the Tenor Reds, they're big wines, and we would like to get as much surface area as possible. So I've got two glasses here. This is a traditional Cabernet Merlot glass, Bordeaux glass, and this is a Riedel Venom XL. So it's almost an identical shape, except this is probably 50% bigger in volume to the traditional glass. It's a great glass, but is going to show the wine in a more intense feel for you. The bigger glass is going to allow just that much more surface area, and it's going to allow the wine to open up a little bit more and allow some of those aromatics to get back to you in a way that is not quite so impactful. And I think it makes the wines prettier. I think it gives them more breadth. And the other thing about it is the lip on the larger glass is much wider, and as a result it'll pour a lot further back on your palate, and as a result diminishing the tannin impact. So younger red wines, you want to drink them out of as big of a glass as possible. Not all varieties, but certainly for Bordeaux varieties, drink them out of a glass that has a much bigger opening if they're within the first year or two. And that'll help diminish the tannin impact, especially if you're drinking Cab or some of the more Cab-oriented Bordeauxs. So obviously very dark in color. It's more of kind of a purpley garnet. We do have a decent amount of Malbec in here, which will add much more of kind of a blue-black hue to it, but there's not a lot of red hue. We typically don't get that from our Cabernet or our Cabernet Franc. If we do get it, it's in Merlot, and in this particular vintage, we don't have a lot of Merlot. So the color is virtually black all the way to the last 2 or 3 millimeters, and then there's kind of more of a purpley garnet color rather than a reddish garnet. Give it a swirl. So again, lots of currants, lots of plums. There's a little kind of background spice to it. There's a lot of depth to the wine. And what I like about blends is that they're not so one-dimensional. They just don't show you one thing and that's all you get. And this is going to be a wine that you want to sit down and give some time, whether it's in a decanter or in your glass, that every time you go back to it, it's going to give you something slightly different. It's going to continue to evolve. some of the different varieties they like to show at different times. So probably when it's young, it's going to give you a lot of that ripe primal Cabernet. Cabernet Franc is going to begin to come up as it gets a little bit of air, and the wine will get whiter with its aromatics. They'll get slightly redder. And I think with the most time, the Malbec, which is going to be a lot of that blackberry liqueur, it doesn't have spice to it, and we don't get a lot of pepper in the Malbec that we get from our sites, but it will add a kind of a nice, more floral, black fruited fragrance to the background. Give it a quick taste. So this wine is plush on entry, super silky, it's very dense, moves side to side extremely well. And what I love about it is it has this great resonance to it. You know, people talk about wines with great finishes, and the finish is essentially you being able to swallow it, it finished smooth, and that tone, the aromatic coming back through your nasal passage. And that's what I love about this wine. It has a tremendous amount of resonance that comes back up. And because the wine's not overly tannic, because of the particular varieties and sourcing we chose for this wine, it's big and dense, but it is extremely silky, and it goes down incredibly easy. And this is a wine that will probably show its best at 4 to 5 years. You could drink it in the next 2, 3, 4 years, but certainly you'd want to splash it into a decanter. But I think will age probably to 12 to 16 years from now and show tremendous till about 12. And then some of the fruit will begin to fade. And for those of you that like a lot of secondary complexity, that'll begin to come out, I think, once we get past about year 10 and 11. So a great wine for you to get your hands on. There's never a lot of the 101. There's about 148 cases in 2008. So certainly one for you to get on the mailing list and get your order in as quickly as possible. This will be available November 2011. So you can get this wine at tenorwines.com.